Alrighty guys, now it's time to do something cool. The first thing we do before we set up our galactic background is let's go ahead and set up our aspect ratio. Currently, you can see here that our game is set to free aspect. Now Unity will provide us with a few defaults, but you can also always add your own aspect ratios based on whatever it is you're creating. Now the aspect ratio we're going to be using for our games are going to be 16:9. 16:9 allows us to scale with our game, like whatever assets we're using will scale proportionately, as well as 16:9 is the typical standard for full HD, TVs, and most computer monitors. So we're going to be working in a 16:9 aspect ratio. Now what we're going to be doing in this video is setting up our galactic background. So to start, let's go ahead and right click in our hierarchy, and we're going to go ahead and create a quad. So head on over to 3D object and scroll down to quad. A quad is two triangles that make a square. We use a quad so that we can use as few polygons as possible for our background. Now what I want to do is we have this little black square here. If you click it, or if you select it in the hierarchy, you'll be able to rename it, or you can also rename it in the inspector. Also, if you're not on the inspector tab and you're still looking at your collab history, go ahead and just select the inspector. Let's go ahead and name this Galaxy. Alrighty, from there, let's go ahead and increase the scale of this. So as you can see here, you'll see if you're on, you'll see in the scene view here that there's these little dots. Now to see these dots, you need to be on this tool here, which is our image size. So you can see here that we can scale the object, we can rotate it, we can translate it, and then we can pan around it. What we want to do is we want to basically be on the UI element scaler. So check this out. Take the corners and just drag them to each corner of the screen. Alright, so basically go ahead and fill up the screen. It's okay if it's not perfect. Get it as best as you can, and go ahead and set the position to 0, 0. And let me go ahead and adjust this just a bit. And like I said, guys, it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does need to cover your screen. Now, because we're in a 16:9 aspect ratio, watch what happens when my scene gets larger and smaller. You'll see here that it scales quite nicely. Now, when I do get too big, I can still see the blue, so that just means I need to increase it just a tad bit more. And there we go. Now my game scales properly. Okay, so now that we have our galaxy background set up, it's a little dull, right? It's just a black screen background. Nothing exciting. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create a material, and we're going to apply a shader, which is essentially an image effect that's going to create our galaxy. And it's going to be a dynamic galaxy that we can control. It's very easy to set up. Let's go ahead and start by creating a material for our galaxy. So hop down to our materials folder, right click, create, material. Go ahead and name this galaxy underscore matte. This is just a typical best practice for all of your materials. The underscore matte is so that when I need to search for a material out of thousands of materials I might have, I can just simply go underscore matte and I can look at all the materials. Alrighty, so what we want to do on this material is right now it's just a standard shader. You see this little drop down here where it says shader standard? Drop that down, go to FX, Galaxy. The reason why that's even an option is because we have this shader right here that I've provided for you. This shader script is essentially a script that tells an image how to be affected by light and other sorts of processing effects, which we're not really going to get into. But just know that basically a shader allows you to create all sorts of image effects, and this is one of them. So head back over to our galaxy matte, and you'll see that we are a galaxy shader. Now what I want you to do is I want you to take this galaxy material, and you can either drag it directly on the object in the scene, or drag it on the object in the hierarchy. Doesn't matter which one you do, the same effect will apply. As soon as you apply it, you'll notice we have this galaxy background. You can even see stars, you can see a sort of blue, maybe it's a blue star in the distance, maybe a black hole. But the point is that this is dynamically generated. Now, we don't see anything exciting just yet, but we do notice that the galaxy background has changed. Go ahead and run the game. And watch this. You'll notice now that there's parallax going on. There's all sorts of stars, distance, and like there's just so much going on here. As you can see here, it's a little chaotic right now with the stars flickering everywhere and some slight movement. You'll have like meteorites passing by. You'll have some showers going on. So let's go ahead and clean this up a bit. What I want to do is, because this is going to be a vertical layout game, we're going to create a parallax effect that's going to bring the galaxy down, making it look like we're moving, sort of like a Star Trek speed of light type deal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on my galaxy material while the game is running so I can see the changes in real time. I want you to change the scrolling direction property here. Set that to 0 on the X and 0 on the Z. You'll notice now that it is slowly moving down. I want you to increase this value to, say, go ahead and make it like 300. And you'll notice that we have a moving galaxy here. Imagine putting a character on this screen, and it's now going to give the feel that we are moving through time and space. Now, you are more than welcome to mess around with any of these values and figure out what you like best, but I'm going to go ahead and keep mine at about 50 because I found that to be a pretty good fit. So 50 looks pretty good. We have a nice moving galaxy, and we're not done yet. Right now we have an awesome galaxy that's parallaxed and we're moving through it. We'll see stars, we'll see asteroids, we'll see black holes. What I want to do now is stop the game and let's go ahead and add our overlay of the galaxy. This is going to be our, what is it called? This is our nebula, if you will. Alrighty, so in our sprites folder, we have this space background overlay. I want you to go ahead and take this item and drag it into the galaxy. So now that the galaxy has a child element, space BG overlay, and vice versa, the space BG has a parent of the galaxy. Now, what I want to show you guys here is we've added this space BG overlay, and you can see in the scene view that it's only in the center. So just like we did with the quad, go ahead and take these two dots on the top and right and drag the screen to fill. Do the same thing for the left side. Okay. And now we have our nebula. So check this out. Go ahead and run this game. And you'll see here that we have a very dynamic galactic background for our game. And like I said, you can go ahead and you can change and modify these settings on the material itself. So I'm pretty happy with 50. I think there's enough movement going on for me to be satisfied. But if you wanted to increase the speed, say make it 150, more than welcome to, and you'll see changes like that. So I'm going to set mine back to 50. And we'll be good to go. Alrighty, lastly, let's go ahead and take a look at something here. We're working in a 2D environment. In 2D, there's no such thing as depth. It's sort of faked. So we create what's known as layers. Now this is important because in our game, we're going to have background layers, like our space BG overlay in our background, and then we're going to have a foreground layer, which is where elements can actually interact with each other. So let's go ahead and set that up. Go ahead and click on your space BG overlay, and you'll notice that we have a sprite renderer component. On here, you'll see it says order in layer, and the sorting layer right now is default. Select default, and let's add a sorting layer. Go ahead and hit this plus icon, and let's create a background sorting layer. So go ahead and name it background. Go ahead and select your space BG overlay, sorting layer, background. The order in the layer, you can keep it at 0. Now what's going to happen is we're going to go ahead and create a foreground layer, and that's going to allow us to have our play elements interact with play elements and ignore background elements. So let's do that now. Again, sorting layer, add sorting layer, and we're going to go ahead and create a new layer and call it foreground. Alrighty, and like I said, this will be our play area. Okay, that's it for this video, guys. We have a successful setup of our Galaxy Space Shooter, and you can go ahead and see here that it does scale with whatever aspect ratio you're using, which is why we're on 16:9. And in the next video, we'll start setting up our player and we'll get into the transform component and how to move.